Friends, we have been talking about bell hooks' ideas, and those ideas pertain to the social life of women in the present time. And we have discussed those ideas, that they are critical, that they are oppositional, that they are struggle-oriented, they are ideas that are intellectual in nature, and that the goodness and the strength of women is to come out through these ideas. So bell hooks also was a votary for what can be called autobiography. Autobiography, all of us know, autobiography is the life story of a person told by the person himself or herself. That is called autobiography. So if I write a book about where I was born, how I grew up, what I learned, what I like, what I do not like, and what happened in all my life through incidents in a sequence, therefore that becomes an autobiography. It's an important aspect of literary expression today, and initially it may have been just about talking about the circumstance, but gradually in the hands of literary writers, autobiography also became a literary method of presenting certain ideas and certain feelings. How is the autobiography different from a novel? This is the question that we should ask ourselves. A novel also talks about a character. The novel also talks about the development of a character, the learning process of a character, the self-criticism of a character. So that is very close to what a person would feel in actual life, and therefore there is a close connection between the character analysis, the character representation in a novel, and a person actually living and learning the ways of society in one's own life. So autobiography is independently there as a mode, but then it is common to all people who talk about themselves, who talk about their own experiences. And now, of course, there are many other forms of autobiography. One form can be memoir, where you just remember certain things and you explain them to people in your terms in first person. So that is what autobiography is. But here, the title of the essay of bell hooks is Writing Autobiography, and it has implications of a different kind. What she means is that there should be a specific way of writing autobiography, and that she will tell people as to how autobiography can be written. Another thing is that she's suggesting is that it is important to write an autobiography. Without writing an autobiography, a woman will not be able to tell in clear terms her intentions, her ideas, her convictions, her opinions to the readers. And autobiography is that kind of a mode where the writer will gain in what can be called authenticity, genuineness. Therefore, read an autobiography by a writer, and then you know what has been going on in this writer's mind, not in her life only. So autobiography also is about the individual mind. So all these things have to be considered in the modern context, in our context, and one should keep in mind all the time as to how one should express oneself in this particular method of writing autobiography. So I hope you understood the meaning of the title. To me, she says, telling the story of my growing up years was intimately connected with the longing to kill the self I was without really having to die. What does it mean? Write an autobiography, but don't talk about yourself. Then what kind of autobiography would it be? Let me repeat the important part of this statement. Intimately connected with the longing to kill the self. You should have the longing, you should have the desire, you should have the aim to kill yourself. I was that kind of self which she was, without really having to die. So you don't die, but you kill yourself in your own writing. But what perhaps she means is, and I think this is an idea worth going over in our own minds also, as to what she means when she says this. My own opinion is that she wants us to know that she is not telling anything personal. She is only saying that which is common to all of us and which she feels, which is not actually there. So she is not talking about what she is, self, not that self which she was, but about something else. What is that other thing that she is talking about? If she kills herself and without dying she kills herself in the writing of autobiography, well, what exactly does she mean? So it's an important point, and if somebody is able to write an autobiography in such a manner that one is not all the time talking about oneself, but about what one felt, for instance. You see, your self means your fact, and your thinking and your feeling may or may not be fact. Maybe they are only fantasies. So maybe that's the idea that she wants to convey through this particular statement in the essay, which is writing autobiography. Then she says, she explains it further. I wanted to kill that self in writing. Which self? That self which she was. That self is not important for us. We don't want to know, where she was, what she did, and all those things. What we want to know is what she was all the time going through in her own life, in her own mind. So she says, I wanted to kill that self in writing, and once that self was gone out of my life forever, I could more easily become the me of me. What is me of me? There is a me that is there in the bodily form. There is a me that is there in the form of the salary that I get while doing a job. There is a me of me that makes the publisher of my books sell in the market, and then finally the money comes to me. That is one me. The other me is that you feel inside yourself, which nobody knows. All other things know. Where you are born is known. Where you study is known to many people. There are records in schools and colleges, and they tell you, when you joined the school or college and when you left it. There are records about your life, in a job, when you applied for a job, when you were rejected, when you were selected, the kind of money you got, all that is known. How you went about, where you traveled, where you stayed, all that is important. That's one me. So please try to understand this in this way, that there is one me that is social. There is one me that people see. There is one me that is recorded. But there is another me also. What is that me? Think about it. So far as I am concerned, that me that is inside myself, which nobody knows because I don't tell. I just show what people want to see, that which is established, that which is praiseworthy, that I show. But there is another me, which I don't share with others. So that other me is actually more precious. That other me is oneself in the real sense of the term. And therefore, in autobiography, when you write, you don't write about the me, but about that me which is yourself. Which means that what you are actually in your mind, what you think, what your fears are, whatever your weaknesses are, what your growing up was, what kind of experiences you went through which you would not otherwise share. But then if you come to writing an autobiography, then of course you have to do all that, and that is precious. Do you agree with this interpretation? You see, this is the beautiful phrase, the me of me. That me which people don't know, but which I know to be true. So that's the me that she is talking about. By writing the autobiography, she says, it was not just the Gloria, that's her name, and she's now using her first name for that, the individual. This Gloria I would be rid of. By writing the autobiography, it was not just this Gloria I would be rid of, because she has to kill this particular identity, but the past that had a hold on me. Now this is not generally written in autobiographies, that there is a past that all the time threatens you, there is a past that always has a hold on you, that controls you, and that you are struggling to come out of it, and you may or may not be successful in doing so, and that is what she aims to express and share with the audience. That kept me from the present. So now the autobiography definitely is that somebody, some formation, parents, teachers, readers, neighbors, all others, they were all the time telling you, do this and don't do that. But then those people who were saying this, those people who were educating you, so to say, they were actually holding you back to what they thought, and what they thought was something that was connected with the past. So I wanted not to forget the past, but to break its hold. Past has a hold on you. Past always tells you what to do, what is appropriate. But then you have to break this hold, and you have to say, yeah, well, yes, I know that these are the parameters in which I have to work, but then let me tell you what I think about the parameters. If you tell what you're thinking about the parameters, and if you tell them in critical terms, then you become actually a different kind of a person, the person that you want to become, and that is being shared through the autobiography. So this death in writing means that you break your connection with the past, which is controlling you. This was to be liberatory. This liberated her. This made her independent, and that made her a new person. That, she will not adhere to the past rituals, the orthodox ideas, the orthodox traditions, but she will do what she wants to do. Even if she doesn't become successful in doing it, she will at least share her ambitions with the audience. So that's what she is saying to her. And then I'm using the words again, the limitation of autobiography, or the extent to which autobiography is a very personal storytelling, a unique recounting of events, not so much as they have happened, but as we remember and invent them. What has happened is not important. Many things have happened in one's life, but then they happened because the person had no control over them. So don't talk about them. You talk about something else. You talk about what you remember. And what does remember mean? Remember means that those things were not liked by you, and you remember them as wrong or as right. But then if you call them right, then they become authentic. They become actually genuine and relevant. But if you remember them as wrong, then you will tell them because this is what you thought, and invent them. Inventing is still more important. Certain things didn't happen, but you thought they should have happened, and therefore when you write your autobiography, you will invent them. And people will say you are telling lies, but then you say, this is what I thought, this is what I think today. So which means that autobiography actually is a concept that doesn't merely tell you about the historical details, but also about the details of your wishes. And those wishes can be invented. You had those wishes and you remember them in a different way today. Therefore, those wishes may have been submerged earlier, but then if they are submerged and if they are lost to you, then you invent them along lines of your acceptance, along lines of your liking. So in a way, so far as she is concerned, writing autobiography, particularly for a woman writer, has this very fantastic aspect of reality, which may also contain a large number of lies because the woman has invented them. In fact, writing autobiography in that sense becomes quite close to literature. Literature is all invention. Literature is all imagination. That may not have happened what you read in a book, but then you read because you like, and if you like, then it is real. So it's not real because it happened. It is real that it is there in the form of words, in the form of expressions that are there inside us. I was compelled, she says, to face the fiction that is a part of all retelling, remembering. So try to understand this word. I was compelled to face. There was some kind of a force working inside her, disciplining her, and that fiction is a part of all retelling. So you are retelling that, which is fiction. Fiction means unreal. Fiction means your desires and feelings. So you must express them. And remembering. So you express them, you retell them, and you remember. Now, remembering is a very editing kind of a process. Editing means you change them, you modify them, you delete them, and you add certain others. All that is a part of editing. So retelling means, in autobiography, retelling. So I began to think of the work I was doing as both fiction and autobiography. So now the cat is out of the bag. She is talking about fiction, and fiction as an important aspect of autobiography. Would you agree with this? that when you write an autobiography, then you should actually share with the audience your fantasies. Your fantasies that you might have done something else which you didn't do in life, and that something else was very wishful, was very attractive, was going along your desires, and therefore it was real for you at that point of time. So will you keep that out? Autobiography is supposed to be an actual, genuine, historical account of your life. That's what autobiography is supposed to be. But she is now changing the very definition of autobiography by saying that fiction also is a part of autobiography, and that fiction means the unreal things which are there in your mind, which are lost sometimes, which are retained certain other times. They get reborn also in your mind. All that is to be kept when you write an autobiography. You keep them in the form in which they were there at the time, as wishes, as fears and apprehensions. So you have to think about this particular aspect, because this tells us the wide range of autobiographical writing. So autobiography, for instance, one may not talk about oneself, one may talk about the neighbor. And when you talk about the neighbor and go into the details of his or her life, then who is doing it? You are doing it. And if you are doing it, then it's not the neighbor who is present in your book, it is your memory of the neighbor. It's a subtle difference, but then this is a different kind of an autobiography, and this autobiography is in the form of dreams, in the form of what things would have been, how those things would have threatened you, how those things would have taken your life, how those things would have controlled your life, or conversely, how they would have actually given you a sense of fulfillment. All that is autobiographical, which means that it is very close to fiction, as she says, and I'll add another word, it's very close to poetry. It's very, very close to one's imagination, because imagination is real, and only the person who has the imagination working in a book knows that, therefore for him or her it is real. And she says that you should have that kind of freedom in writing an autobiography, because that will bring out the convulsions of thought, convulsions of feelings that operate in the woman's mind, that remain there, and they have to be shared with the audience with courage. It seems, she says, to fall in the category of writing that can be called biomythography. What is this word? Bio means of the life, and mythography means that certain myths operate in the mind. Those myths, how do you capture those myths? All of us, believe in some kind of a myth. When you have heard a story or read a story in a book, and that became quite popular later, then you start telling it. You tell it once, that is what people hear. Next time, the same thing is told by you, and you say it differently. There is a third time, there is a fourth time, and finally you would see that the last time that you said was not what you meant in the first time. That means that there is a kind of a myth forming in your own mind regarding the reality of that particular story. So this means it's completely unreal. The life is not life. The details are not details, and they are all inventions and memories. And when you memorize them, and when you see them later in your memory, then maybe they have undergone certain changes. So what is a better word? So autobiography is not a biography of an individual written by herself. It is actually mythography. That you heard things, you saw things, when you told them, they had assumed the form of a myth. Myth means something that you believe to be true, but that was not actually true, and that every time it will change its form. As I wrote, I felt, she says, that I was not as concerned with accuracy of detail. You don't talk about accurate details, as I was with evoking in writing the state of mind. Evoking. What is evoking? That you create, suggest, you hint, you say two things in the same breath, and you actually put a sense of feeling in your writing, and that feeling starts forming itself in the mind of the reader. That is called evocation. So she was evoking in writing the state of mind. For instance, if somebody 20 years ago went to a place and felt happy about the place, and he doesn't remember anything except that he was happy there or she was happy there. So how to evoke that state of mind of happiness in that place which you visited 20 years ago, about which you don't have any important details still retained in your mind? So if you are talking about your childhood and you are an adult, let's say you are 60-year-old or 70-year-old, and you are talking about your childhood, how much of childhood do you remember actually? Because you have gone through all the ups and downs of life, and many things have been already erased in the memory. But yet, because you are talking about your childhood, therefore you will be adding quite a few things. You will be inventing quite a few things, and where you will be sympathetically, realistically concerned in the writing of your life would be in the evocation of the state of mind, because you enjoyed your childhood or you felt pain in your childhood. So that pain will be the determining factor, then that happiness will be the determining factor which was there stored as a memory in your mind, and you are evoking that only. So you know the form in which autobiography can turn in one side or the other, and by doing so it captures the landscape of the mind in a different manner. The spirit of a particular moment. So a moment is not important. Moment is a moment because it has an incident in it. It has some kind of an episode in it. There is a happening there. But then what is the spirit? The spirit is the difficult thing. The spirit of the moment is difficult, and that is supposed to be captured by the writer with the help of one's imagination, with the help of memory, with the help of the word skills, with the help of your sense of courage. You may be able to say this to people which otherwise you wouldn't have said. So all this is a part of autobiography, and that kind of autobiography is to be written by women. So she says, in fact, that she is writing the essay as writing autobiography, but what she actually means is writing autobiography as an activity of women today. So that makes it the complete title, and it should be understood in that particular manner. Further, desire to tell one's story was the longing for release. This idea is common to other writers also, that when they write, they actually get a sense of release. That compelled the writing, but concurrently it was the joy of reunion that enabled me to see that the act of writing one's autobiography is a way to find again that aspect of self and experience that may no longer be an actual part of one's life, but a living memory shaping and informing the present. What does one make out of it? The idea has been explained by me in this lecture earlier, and let me repeat in the context of this particular statement that basically you are dealing with a past which you made yourself through your struggles, and that part then became a kind of your memory, and when you reproduced it, when you retold it much later towards the end of your life, when you are 60 or 70, you started remaking it. Then you did so in the present moment, in the actually later moment when you wrote. So you are coming from one moment of your life to another moment, and if there are changes in between, those changes have to be sorted out in such a manner that finally they end up as the present moment. So informing the present is important. How your present is influenced by the past that you want to tell. Then within the world of my childhood, she says, naturally, this is what I was pointing out, that one has to make one's childhood. How does one make it after so many years? So this is the answer that she gives. Within the world of my childhood, we held on to the legacy of a distinct black culture by listening to the elders tell their stories. This is how children learn. They don't have their own stories to tell. They have not seen life. They have not seen the world around them. They are newcomers in this world. So how do they connect with this world? They connect it because they are surrounded by the elder people who have been a part of this world and who tell them what the world is like. And as children, you accept. And then she says, autobiography was experienced most actively in the art of telling one's story. So autobiography actually is an art, and it's the art of telling one's story. And all the time in childhood, it was done by the elders. They would tell their own story, and they did it artfully. They did it in such a manner that it became interesting for you. Children generally become completely absorbed in the account that the elders present to them, and that is what is very educative for the children also. Later on, you carry those memories as your childhood memories. You carry those memories as memories of people whom you met, whom you saw, who actually told you. Maybe when you are old, they are all dead and gone, and yet they have not died. They live in your memory, and they live in your memory in their own terms as well as in your terms. So when you write the autobiography, then you have taken the art from them and you are remaking it, retelling it in your own way, and that is what real autobiography should be, and that is where memory plays a very important part. Finally, an autobiographical narrative seemed an appropriate place. A woman, finds it a place that one can belong to very, very well, and she can call it her own. Maybe it's a kind of her own making. So each particular incident, encounter, experience had its own story. That's what the autobiography is for us. That everything that happens in one's life, every experience that one goes through, that has its own story, and that story, and she is using the word story very carefully. Story doesn't mean a real happening. It means writing a story. So if you write a story about an experience, then that is an art of writing. And as an art of writing, autobiography makes a great appeal to the audience. Sometimes told from the first person, sometimes told from the third person. It was the act of making it present, bringing it into the open, so to speak, that was liberating. So I end with this particular idea that all this is very liberating. When you have written an autobiography, then actually you have already put things in a new perspective, and there you find it worthwhile sharing with others and changing their attitudes, giving them new versions, so that they also become later on active to write their autobiographies in the sense of their own stories. So that's how I conclude by saying that this kind of a writing is important for a woman's assertion, because the woman then will see not from the closed doors of her actual existence, but from the open doors of her mind, and she will be interpreting the memories in her own way, and that is what is going to make her autobiography different from the male's autobiographies, because they have known the world, they have seen the world, and here the women only hear about the world and they recreate. So there's a different kind of an autobiography, and this, so far as she is concerned, is the genuine, authentic autobiography of a woman. So I end with this, and I'm sure that you will see the difference between the writing of autobiography in the hands of a male and in the hands of a female, even though she didn't use the word female in the context of this essay called Writing Autobiography. Thank you.